Hello friends. Inline function. Inline function is basic structure which is present in C++ and which is very important for the C++. But this structures is helpful for the C++ coding only. Inline function. Inline function is a function that is expanded in line at the point which is invoked instead of being called at the time of program execution. That means whatever function you are representing as an inline, that function will get executed at the time of compilation. We'll see in a detail. The reason that inline functions are an important addition to the C++ is that they allow you to create very efficient code. Each time a normal function is called, a significant amount of overhead is generated and by the calling and a returning mechanism. Okay? So what was happening? Consider the normal function. What is performing? First time it get called, then it come back to the function definition. It will get executed and it will go back to that function definition. So it is consuming lot of time as well as the memory space for the stack. So this we can avoid with the inline function. How we can do that? We'll see. Typically, arguments are pushed onto the stack, right? And various registers are saved when the function is called and stored in the whenever the function returns. Fine. So this trouble we can avoid with the help of inline function. However, when the function is expanded inline, none of this operation will get performed. Means whatever execution can be get performed, we can do it avoid with the help of inline function. So inline is just a repeat, not a command to the compiler. That means the compiler can choose to ignore it. Also, some compilers may not inline all types of function if that function is lined or simply called as a normal function. A function we can define as inline with the prefix as a keyword inline. For example, inline function name, the body of function and close it. Now we'll see the program for the inline function. So this is a function is given which is saying inline int max int x into y. So whatever function we are providing, we just have to prefix it with the statement that is inline, so that this block of code will get in line with your main block of code. Now what will happen at the time of execution? First, compiler start execution from main. It will check for the two variable that is a and b. Cout enter two numbers and a and b. So consider the value of a is 4 and b is 5. Then we are saying cout the max is max a comma b. So when this function will get called, the compiler no need to switch from here to here. Why? Because at the time of compilation, the code of this statement is already copy pasted over here. That means the execution of the compiler time will get reduced because you don't need to switch from here to here, execute the code and then come back with a returning value. Fine. So this you can do for the inline statement. But this thing you can work when you are writing small amount of code like one line, single line, two line, multiple lines. You can use it. But if you are writing it for the multiple block of code, then this is not a feasible for the C++ programming. Next comes is macros versus inline functions. As you know, the macros is small functions or are normal codes. Okay? And inline function is a function which you can perform at the time of compilation. So we'll see the difference. Preprocessor macros are just a substitution pattern applied to your code, right? They can be used almost anywhere in your code because they are replaced with their expansion before any compilation start. Inline function are the actual function body whose body is directly injected into the call site. As we have know, macro means what? Preprocessor directive. So the definition of those are already given by the compiler. So compiler already knows everything, so he just need to expand it. But inline functions are defined by the user, so he has to execute that code, he has to provide the compilation to that code, and then he can execute into the main block of code. Next, they can only be used where a function call is appropriate. We cannot write it anywhere. Wherever the function call is present, we have to execute it at that same point. Fine. Next, inline functions are like a macros only, but inline functions are passed by the compiler, whereas macros are expanded by the preprocessor. As a result, there are several important differences. Inline functions follow all the protocols of the type safety enforced on the normal functions. Plus, inline functions are specified using the same syntax as any other function, except they include the inline keyword. Then, expression passed as the argument to the inline function, which we cannot do at the time of macros. Plus, in some cases, expressions are passed as an argument in a macros can be evaluated more than once. Then, macros are expanded at pre-compile time. Yes, because before compilation, we have to add the macros, right? Without that, you cannot perform the execution. And you cannot use them for debugging, but you can use it for the inline function. Inline function is a normal code, so we can directly write it and we can execute it. We can debug it also. Thank you.